Hey, one Mug World Entertainment, and we almost had the best of both worlds, or possibly the worst of both worlds. Because you can see there, Star Trek showrunner confirms Doctor Who crossover talks did happen. Yeah. Now, this would be Russell T Davies' new version of Doctor Who, which is just gay. And that's not me just being facetious, that's literally what it was. He came back just to make everything gay, for reasons. And of course, Strange New Worlds version of Star Trek. Now, what I love, you're looking at an image here. The image should tell you something that the article that uses said image doesn't even realize or bring up, which is the fact that they've already had a crossover. Yeah. In fact, they think it happened another way, and only 2 years ago. You'll see what I mean. But realistically, with Strange New Worlds and with modern Doctor Who under gay Russell T Davies version, we dodged the bullet. For which franchise, I don't know at this stage. But let's take a look at this because, dear God. And keep in mind, Russell T Davies has only recently started seeing Star Trek for the first time. And it's Kurtzman Trek, which tells you everything you need to know as well. So, let's dive into this. It turns out a dream crossover between two of sci-fi's most iconic franchises very nearly became a reality. In a recent interview, Star Trek Strange New Worlds co-showrunners Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers have revealed that discussions about a Doctor Who and Star Trek mashup took place. Talking to Awards Radar, whoever that is, Goldsman confirmed that he, Myers, and former Doctor Who showrunner Russell T Davies went back and forth on the idea for a significant period, only for it to ultimately never come to function. So, Goldsman explained, "We were trying with Russell to do a crossover. We were for years. Again, these are the near misses. But we got not unclose and we had some really cool conversations about it. And so, certainly in our view, Pela travelled in the TARDIS. Why not?" Now, I read that and was like, who the fuck is Pela or Pela? Turns out it's the chief engineer of the Enterprise. I had no idea what her name was. That's apparently her name. Now, I'd like to point out here, where he says we were trying for years. Really? Years? With Russell T Davies, who's only been back for a couple of years. But you were trying for years with Russell T Davies. It's interesting. So, while we don't know how close... By the way, just before I go on, why did he say it this way? But we got not unclose. Why didn't you just say we didn't? We weren't not like... that far away from doing it. Why would you say it that way? But we got not unclose. What? You pretentious prick. But it says, well, we don't know how close this Star Trek Doctor Who event actually came to happening. The idea clearly excited those on both sides. The notion of blending the Star Trek universe with the timey-wimey chaos of Doctor Who is undeniably entrancing. What an idiot. I can read, sometimes. So, why didn't it get any further than these discussions? For starters, any such crossover is likely to have been bogged down in complicated rights issues. Had it got any further than these talks, with Disney Plus, which funded Davies' last stint in the TARDIS, no doubt uninterested in teaming with a rival streamer. And that is the thing. You would be looking at the question of, well, who's going to finance it? Who pays for which? Do we cross it over where Doctor Who only goes to Star Trek? Or do we have to go and take Star Trek to Doctor Who? Or do we have to do it both ways? That Doctor Who ends up in Star Trek and then Star Trek ends up in Doctor Who. The rights would have been an absolute disaster to try and do it with Disney Plus. The BBC, it would have probably been a little easier to do it with, but the fact that Disney Plus were the ones distributing it and financing it would have been where it got really awkward. So, of course, hints of an overlap between the two franchises have already made their way into Strange New Worlds. In the 2025 season final titled The Life, Our New Life and New Civilizations, Chief Engineer Pela casually referenced a long history of time-traveling adventures involving a certain doctor, strongly implying that she's crossed paths with the Time Lord. Which, by the way, just even the idea of it is ridiculous, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I do casually remember when half the times you can understand what the fuck she says. She said something about, like, they were talking about time travel and she kind of casually mentioned that she knows a doctor who does time travel and stuff like that. And immediately you're kind of like, she's talking about Doctor Who? So Myers said of the long-lived Lantern Knight, long history, she's done many things. She's had many adventures. With Goldsman adding, that's right. When the idea of Starfleet existing within the Whoniverse was put to the duo. Now, it's coming up to the part where it's hilarious with how they caption this with this particular image. So, it's worth noting that the episode titled The Shillet, whatever it was called, who ate its tail, the Doctor's TARDIS is shown trapped alongside the USS Enterprise within a star-consuming entity. It was only a playful Easter egg for eagle-eyed fans, but enough to tease us with what might have been. The Divisive Space Babies episode also references the Star Trek franchise. Here's the part that is hilarious. While no live-action crossover has ever materialized, the franchises have technically crossed paths in another form. Are they going to talk about this? No, they're not. In July of 2024, at San Diego Comic-Con's Intergalactic Friendship Day panel, Davies and Kurtzman announced 2 official mobile game crossovers produced by Eastside Games, making the first sanctioned collaboration between the two sci-fi giants. Alas, with Doctor Who now put out to tender and set to be on the shelf for the foreseeable future, because it's cancelled, a crossover isn't likely. At the same time, Paramount is looking to wrap up Star Trek's time on streaming, bringing it back to theatres and ending Kurtzman's time in charge of the property. Thank the ever-loving Christ about that. Now, they said the first official sanction thing is this game that was announced in 2024. Just completely ignoring the very image you put up, which is from the fucking comic book crossovers that have been going on for years. And I do mean years. They've had Doctor Who crossover with Star Trek in comics since the early 2000s, you fucking clowns. You have literally an image of said one comic books and you dance around the whole thing that, well, the only way we ever actually got a crossover was with this mobile game. No, it wasn't, you clowns. It was in fact in the goddamn comic books. Good God, how can you be so stupid to use one of the comic books images as your image for your article and then completely ignore the fact that they even had the comic books? How do you do that? Are they that stupid? Good God. Anyway, the idea that we could have had new Russell T Davies version of Doctor Who, which again is just gay Doctor Who, and Kurtzman Trek mashed together. Again, we dodged the bullet. In regards of which franchise dodged it more, fuck, who knows at this stage? Did any of them? Like, neither one of them would have benefited from either one of them crossing over. Literally, because no one watched them. How do we know that? Because it's all cancelled. That's how we know. But I just love that they're going on about, the first official sanctioned thing that we actually got was this game. And instead of what we could have actually had, which was this garbage, just completely ignoring the fact that there was multiple comic runs with this. There's even comic book runs where Star Trek versus X-Men, for Christ's sake. So, yeah. But what do you guys think? Would you have liked to have seen gay Doctor Who versus modern Trek, Kurtzman Trek? Let me know. And do you think we just dodged a bullet? Let me know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So, do like and share and subscribe and hit that hype button and all that good stuff. Cheers, and I shall catch you in the next one.